Welcome everyone to the tutorial that I'd like to call Thunderstruck, where I take an ordinary photo of playing cards and create an earth-shattering masterpiece. Okay, so maybe I'm being a little theatrical, but I still think that the end result is at least 4 times better than the original, mainly because there are 3 copies of the original photo in the final piece. But enough talk, let's get Thunderstruck. We start with this image that I snapped on my iPhone of a deck of red cards. Now I only have this one deck, and I need 3 other colors, blue, green, and yellow. You'll notice that I've already cut out the cards and put it on its own layer. So we'll hide the background layer in order to just work with the cutout cards. The first thing we need to do is colorize the cards. There are many ways to do this, but I'm going to use the channels palette, because in this case, it works the best. In order to change the colors of the cards, we need to first make a copy of all 3 channels by clicking on each one and dragging them to the new channel icon. Now we have the shades with which to work with. This is where the fun begins. For each channel, remember that the lighter it is, the more of that color is represented. With the red card, you can see that the red channel is the lightest and the green is the darkest, with the blue just a tad lighter. So if you want to change the color of the card, you need to change the darkness and lightness of each channel. Click on the RGB channel and then click on the Layers panel. We need to make a copy of this red card, and you can do that by pressing Ctrl J to jump the image to a new layer. Double-click the layer and name it Blue. Now switch to the Channels palette and click on the green Copy channel. Press Ctrl A to select all, and then Ctrl C to copy the channel. Now click on the red channel and press Ctrl Shift V to paste in place. Now if you click on the RGB composite and switch back to the Layers palette, you'll see that we now have a blue deck, which in my opinion looks no different than if you would have gone to the store and purchased the blue deck. Now we need to jump this layer by pressing Ctrl J. Double click this new layer and name it Green. To make a green card, you need the red and blue channels to be dark and the green channel to be light. So we'll click over to the Channels palette and click on the red Copy channel, press Ctrl A and Ctrl C to copy, and then click on the green channel and press Ctrl Shift V to paste in place. Click on the RGB composite and switch back to the Layers palette, and you'll see we now have a green card. We need one more card, so we'll repeat this process one more time. Press Ctrl J to jump to a new layer, and double click this layer and name it Yellow. Now to make a yellow card, we need both the red and the green channel to be light. Click over to the Channels palette, and since the green is already light, we just need to change the red. So click on the red Copy channel, press Ctrl A and Ctrl C to copy, click on the red channel and press Ctrl Shift V. Click on the RGB composite and switch back to the Layers panel, and you'll see that we now have all 4 cards that we need, and we're almost ready to move them over to the graphic design. Before we do that, I wanted to point this out. I have a graphic design piece already ready with a couple of layers set up. I have a black background layer, and if I turn on the next layer, I have placed in this sky layer, which I got from Stock Exchange. Above that, I have my type layer with an outer glow applied that I will use on the lightning later. Above that, I have a layer filled with white, and a lightning layer in which I already have my base lightning that I created following Deek's lightning tutorial. So I'll turn all those off except for the sky. I'll click on the sky layer, go back to my card document, I'll click on the yellow layer, then shift click on the red layer to select all 4 card layers. I'll make sure the Move tool is selected by pressing the V key on my keyboard. Then I'll click and drag the image up to the starting point tab, and once it's switched over, I'll hold the Shift key down and release the mouse button. Now that I have all my cards in the design that I need to align them. So I'll scroll down to get all the cards in the view. I'll click on the red card layer and I'll move it over to the left hand side. Then I'll click on the yellow layer and move it over to the right. And then I'll click on the green and move it over just a little bit to get my layers how I want it. Now to align them, I'm going to use the align buttons up here. So I'm going to click on the yellow and then shift click on the cropped cards layer. Now I'm going to click on the distribute horizontal button here. And then I'm also going to click on the align horizontal as well. Align vertical centers, I'm sorry. Now they're all aligned. Now to get them set in the correct position, I'm going to turn on the lightning layer, then click and drag the cards down until the end of the lightning is kind of on the card itself, just like that. Now for the background. The first thing I notice is that it's too bright. So I'll double click the area next to the text to bring up the blending options. Now I'm going to adjust the black slider for this layer to 155, making it nice and dark level say through. I'll press and hold the Alt key and bring the left end back to about 86. Get a nice transition. Press OK to select this blend mode. So that's done a nice job of darkening the sky, but it's not quite where I want it. So I need to add a brightness contrast adjustment layer. I want to set the brightness to -100 and the contrast to 21. Now I want to add a drop shadow to the cards to make it look a little better. So I'll click on the red card layer and add a drop shadow layer effect. In the settings, I'll uncheck Use Global Light and set the degrees to 45. I'll give it a distance of 11 and a size of 8. Sorry, a size of 18. Press OK to accept the layer style. And to add the style to the other cards, click on the FX button next to the red layer, choose Copy Layer Style, then I'm going to click on the blue layer, and then Shift-click on yellow, right-click, and choose Paste Layer Style. The next step is to add the lightning, and for that I'm going to use Deke's Lightning Tutorial to do it. First, I'm going to select both the lightning and the white layer. I'm going to create a new smart object by right-clicking in the area and choosing Convert to Smart Object. Now I'm going to click on Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, set a level of 40, press Enter to select it. Now I'm also going to add a Filter, Render, Difference Clouds. Finally, click on the adjustment layers and choose Levels. Now in this box, set the numbers to 5, 2, and 20, and then switch the black and white triangles. And we're good to go. Double-click on the Lightning Smart Object. Now we need to keep the lightning layer untouched, so we need to make 4 copies of the lightning layer. So press Ctrl-J 4 times. Now click on the brush tool and check the brush options. We want to set the size to 10 pixels and the hardness to 100%. Now we're ready to draw a vertical line at the end of each lightning bolt. So press X on the keyboard to get black as the foreground color. Take the first end of the lightning bolt and drag while holding the Shift key straight down. Click on the next layer and do the same thing with that lightning bolt, the third, and the fourth. And I'm holding the Shift key down to constrain the proportions to be a straight line. Now click back up to the top layer, use the magic wand, select the white area, do Select, Modify, Expand, do 5 pixels, and then with black filled, Alt Backspace to fill it in. Turn that layer off, click the next layer, use the magic wand tool, select, modify, expand, 5 pixels, Control or Alt Backspace to fill that. Go to the next one, use the mouse key, select, modify, expand, 5 pixels, Alt Backspace, and the last one, click, select, modify, expand, 5 pixels, Alt Backspace. Okay, so now we're done with all the layers, so let's turn off all the layers except the white one and the top one. Press Ctrl S to save the smart object, then click over to the starting point document. You'll see the smart object has been updated. Click on the Channels palette, Control-click on the RGB composite channel to load that selection in, go back to the layers, click on the yellow card layer and add a new layer. Make sure your fill color is set to white and press Alt Backspace to fill it. Back to the smart object, turn on the next layer, save it, back to the starting point, go to Channels, Control-click RGB, go back to Layers, Alt Backspace, load that one, back to the smart object, turn the next layer on, save, starting point, Channels, Control-click RGB, back to Layers, Alt Backspace, last one, smart object, turn off and on, save, back to starting point, Channels, load the selection, and then Alt Backspace. So now that the lightning bolts have been created, I'll turn off the smart object and the levels command. You can see the lighting and it looks pretty good. Press Ctrl D to deselect, and we're going to add a layer mask to this so we can mask out the bottom part. Choose a gradient tool and drag up just a little bit to get a starting point. Now we'll create a new layer for the lightning points. Go back to the brush tool, set the size to about 65 pixels and a hardness to 0. Click off of that. Now click on each of the ends of the lightning. 2, 3, 4. Now for this layer, set the blend mode to overlay and give it an opacity of 80%. Now we'll turn on the text layer. And if the lightning goes behind it, I want to mask that back lightning out. So make sure my brush tool, black text, and I'll cover out this part of the lightning. So it looks like it's coming from behind it. Now the last thing we're going to do is we're going to right click on the text layer and we're going to copy that layer style and we're going to apply it to the lightning. So right click on the lightning, choose paste layer style. Now we're going to have the final composition all the way from a single playing card to this exquisite masterpiece. I hope you enjoy this. Thanks.